And for yeah, that's what you and I think. But unfortunately, I think a majority of the affluent of the top 10 or 20, whatever the percentage is, they're in their beautiful house in their gated communities, driving their, Lexuses or Teslas or whatever. Admittedly, I drive a 2009 Volvo with 180,000 miles on it, and I'm not just saying that, I do.
Love that.
They think, this is just what happens in the world, and my family's protected. So I have a nice network of people, successful people. They can't really look into what we're talking about, because it immediately degrades what they've done for their whole career.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you own $100 million in real estate? Well, what was the average interest rate you had on that real estate for the past 30 years? And was it declining? And was inflation much higher than that? So you borrowed at 1% and you got 20% back on your real estate? That's because of the manipulation of the currency. It's not because you're a genius.
Mr. Jeff Casler, thank you so much for joining me today and being a playable character. And I appreciate your time today, because I know you're a busy guy, and I know you got mass adoption coming up and a lot on the line here in the next few weeks. So I appreciate you taking some time here today to share your story with us, sir.
Thanks, Brandon. I'm very excited to talk to you. So thank you.
So we were talking offline about your story, and we were, I was just saying that there's a lot of macro talk. There's a lot of those things. That's great and all. A lot of number go up, prices go down, all these great things. However, some of the most important stuff, really, the human aspect in attracting people to this freedom movement and Bitcoin, is our stories and where we've come from and all the hurdles we've cleared, and the where we've come from in life, because that's going to resonate the most with people. So you have an unbelievably fascinating story, much different and really more intriguing, I would say, than most people in Bitcoin. So I would love for you to kind of start there, your journey, even growing up, kind of the progression and where it's led you here today to Bitcoin and starting mass adoption and where that's now gone to.
Wow. Thanks, Brandon. I'm not sure I deserve what you just said, but thank you. Well, it's a bunch of factors. I spent probably about 30 years in the Fiat world, building businesses, private equity-backed businesses. I've had a couple of investments from them and sold companies and exited those companies. So I've had that experience. And from there, so in 2020, I had my third business, and COVID hit 2020. Federal regulations came in. You got to shut down. You got to stand 6 feet apart. You got to wear a mask. All this stuff. You can't be open at 10 o'clock in the morning. Whatever the nonsense was. And somehow my gut told me, get out of this. So within a week, I shut all of my businesses down. Very crazy to my family, not crazy to me, but I could just feel what was happening. So one door opened, one door closes, and another door opened. And so I went through a tough time. Once I closed my businesses, we were all locked in our homes. There was a huge pandemic going on. You were going to die. All this stuff was crazy. And I had no work and I had no outlet. But somehow I started learning about Bitcoin. And the more I read, the more I learned. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And I was a Fiat junkie. I mean, I worked for Fiat. I worked for Fiat Investment. Mm-hmm. I worked to sell those companies for bigger Fiat piles. So I'm as guilty as the rest, and I benefited from it too. So I'm not saying I've been a saint my whole life as far as the Bitcoin perspective. But it allowed me to take the time. I've worked for 30 years, 7 days a week. I've never had time to sit back and do research on how the monetary system works and how the central bank works and how the central bank originated and how cycles work and how the decline of empires work and how psychology works and how physics works and thermodynamics. So all of this stuff it has been amazing, and it allowed me the time to research that. So the more and more I looked into Bitcoin, the more I realized this was the answer. Not only number to go up to make you wealthier, but to solve, I'd say all, but for people out there, most of society's ills, because it all comes down to the manipulation of money. I mean, you and I both go to work, or did go to work. We traded our time
Yep.
for fiat dollars. And then in the background, the central banks are debasing the currency as we earn it. So it's as if you worked an 8-hour day. It's as if you worked an 11-hour day, because that's how much you're going to have to work to make the same in 8 hours. Or, you could look at it a different perspective. But I realized it was a theft on the grand scale, and we have to do something about it. So as Jeff Booth says, live in the world, or live in the system you want to be in. And that's exactly what I've done. In 2020, I went all in after Michael Saylor's first investment of $250 million in August of 2020. I was on the verge of going all in, but as soon as he did that, I said, okay, this guy's a lot smarter than I will ever be. I will, if he's doing it, I'm in. So I've been all in since 2020.
Hey, that's what's the saying? Good artists copy, great artists steal. That's brilliant. And there's another we were joking about power laws right before we came on here, but there, one of like the frameworks of life though is just go straight to the top, right? Like just do what the people at the top are doing. It was like I was just listening to this the other day, the Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan thing, where like there's a side by side where his move or Jordan's move, like Kobe did the same exact thing. He studied them and they looked identical, like mirrored visions of each other. Anyway, speaking of that, creating that vision of the world, Jeff Booth, what he's famous for, obviously continually talking about that and being a great example of it. Going back into your fiat world for a quick second, what were you doing? Like, what was your fiat when you had these exits and you're, kind of living that like fiat life, like a lot of people look to, especially nowadays. Like you have young entrepreneurs and all these people that are like, oh, I want an exit, I want to build a business and do all that. What were you doing in those worlds where you were, selling companies and you had some, big successes?
I went to, I graduated with a business degree, an accounting degree major and a business degree. I worked for a CPA firm for a couple of years out of college. And again, like my decision to close my businesses, I went to my parents back in the must have been late 80s. Hate to date myself, but that's the fact. And I said, I hate accounting. I'm quitting. I'd rather wait tables. My parents like, what do you mean? You went to college, you got a degree, you're sitting for the CPA exam. Like, what are you talking about? And I quit because I couldn't take it. So from there, my mother had a little used clothing store back in the 70s, which was unheard of back in the 70s. Now it's how every kid shops.
Yeah.
But I saw her business model because it was consignment, so you get inventory for free, and then people come in and give you fiat dollars for the inventory you got for free, and you pay people later. Like, it's a great system. It's not as good as the central bank system, but it's pretty close. So I said, geez, Mom, that's an amazing business model. And she was supporting our family. Unfortunately, my dad has the same disease that I have, the same disease my dad had. So he was stricken with multiple sclerosis. So I grew up with that. So she was the breadwinner in the family. I saw the business she had. And I said, well, I don't like my accounting job. Let me go try this out. I opened a store on Newbury Street in Boston, which is the big fashion street in Boston. It's like the Fifth Avenue of Boston. And from there, I opened up 40 locations from my first store on Newbury Street. And we got a private equity investment. So basically, I was a retailer. I had them out throughout the country, as far as west as Chicago, as far north as Vermont, as far south as Florida. So we built up a business, and but then it's a different game once you get private equity investment. You're just trying to basically please the board and please the investors because you want to package it up for an exit. And knock wood, that's exactly what we did.
Wow.
And then from there, I did the same. I had a non-compete. I went and built an 18-store chain in Toronto, Canada.
Wow.
I lived there for 5 years. I commuted back and forth. It took a great toll on me physically. So I went back to my board and said, I commuted there every week to Toronto, and people that travel understand how tough commuting is on the body. And I went to my board and said, I'm not doing well physically. So I had to step down as CEO, and we hired someone else. But then I opened back in Boston, and that's the company I closed during COVID.
Wow.
So I'm not sure I answered your question because I
Yeah,
kind of
no, that
forgot it,
was
but I just rambled on.
no, that was perfect. And there's not a lot of people. I don't know. I don't know if I can quantify that necessarily. So I don't know if I should say that. But there's not tons of people that have that kind of prowess or just entrepreneurial experience in Bitcoin. And I know there's a lot, but percentage wise, there's not that level of experience. So it's very cool. And again, this is why I think sharing our stories is so important, and seeing that you guys, what you created, what you've been through, whether it's physically or entrepreneurially, and again the hurdles you have to go through, and then to now see Bitcoin as that. For me, just sharing a little bit about mine, just being hockey, like we talked about before, hockey, and then in being very political, understanding gold and silver and studying that, 15 years ago, once that crash when I was graduating school at that time, college at MSU, and then going into real estate and doing that, the gold silver real estate thing, and being at the top of the heap, so to speak, of the Fiat Titanic, but you're still going to the bottom of the sea, and it doesn't matter. You're just shuffling Fiat around, doesn't matter. So kind of what you alluded to, and then you see Bitcoin and the scales fall from your eyes. What was that like, I guess, in 2020, even when you were realizing, oh my goodness, like Bitcoin is the thing. You see Michael Saylor do his thing. You're shutting your businesses down. Obviously, very successful in what you've done. I can imagine your friends and family being like, "What is Jeff doing?" What was that?
But Brandon, they've said that for many, many years, so that wasn't anything new. What is Jeff doing? And they're saying that today. What is Jeff doing? Because the normies are asking, "What is Jeff doing?"
It'll never end.
As a matter of fact, a quick story. Since COVID, we have a monthly conference call with three of my buddies from elementary school. So we decided to kind of get connected, but we've kept it going. So we still do it once a month. But about a year ago, they contacted my best friend, who's not on this call, and they said, "Boy, we're really concerned about Jeff. He's really off the deep end on this bit. This is my good friends. He's really off the end of this Bitcoin thing, and he sounds like he's going to go crazy." And so they're still saying it, and it's just very tough for people deeply entrenched, especially successful people deeply entrenched in the fiat world, to comprehend it. So, I will say all of that experience in everything I've gone through is one of the main catalysts or reasons why and how mass adoption was created and how we've built it so quickly. So it did pay off all those 30 years of all that work.
So, and I want to touch on that in a second, obviously, and kind of transition into mass adoption. What was it? So the last thing about this, what was it that when you were, you shut your stuff down and because I think this is really important for the average person, pre-coiner, someone that's just getting the space or just trying to figure out, is it Bitcoin? Is it altcoins? And it's very confusing in the beginning. And most of us, we were shitcoining in the beginning or whatever, because you just don't know. You're inundated with marketing, all this BS and this noise. So what helped you find the signal? What was it to you? Like, what content were you watching? What was it for you? Was it Sailor and Breedlove? Was it, realizing someone's a scammer? Like, what was it for you that really got you over those hurdles?
That's a great question. And I truly think the most important part of that answer is you have to first identify and understand there's a problem, because without the problem, you're not open to a solution. So Bitcoin, and talking about Bitcoin and the scarcity, and the difficulty adjustment, and no third party. You don't have to rely on a third party.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, but that has to come after you understand there's a problem. So I read a lot of books on empires, decline of empires, how they've debased money. That's why empires decline typically, because they're debasing money. So you got to understand there's a problem first. So that would be my first suggestion. So it's not just learning technically about Bitcoin and how it works and all that stuff. If you don't think there's a problem, you're not going to be open to a solution. So you really have to understand that there's a problem with, I didn't know back then if you put your money in a bank, it's legally not your money. I didn't know that. I mean, I thought, it's in the bank. That's my money.
Yeah.
I didn't
So
know
true.
that when the Treasury, the U.S. government, the Treasury issues bonds, the Federal Reserve prints money out of thin air to purchase those bonds, and then they charge us interest on fake money. I mean, I didn't know that stuff. I mean, who would ever think that's even possible?
Yeah.
But it is. It's factual. So until you understand, I highly recommend everybody. There's a couple books I really highly recommend. One of them is obviously Creature from Jekyll Island. It's how the Federal Reserve was originated, or the third try in 2013, in 1913. But when you read that book and you understand that it's all a scam, it's all about transferring money from the middle class and the poor up to the 1 or 2%. Everything from there, every system, institution, this is my opinion, is built around that grift. Everything from education to healthcare, to sports, everything. I mean,
Yes.
I love Michael Jordan and I love Larry Bird, but $100 million a year, like
Right.
what do you? So
Don't get me started on
you have to
athletes and
understand.
Fiat. Oh boy.
Right. I mean, so the max contracts the NBA is getting now, and Jaylen Brown just got
Wild.
$60 million a year. I'm like, he's playing hoop. Like
Yeah.
I'd play hoop for free.
Right.
Well,
Sorry, really quick, and this is a whole different pod we could do on this. My like free market's a free market, which I know we all believe, Bitcoiners believe in. Like if someone's going to pay $100 million or whatever, then great, get your $100 million. However, the incentives are so broken, like football, for example. Football is so broken where you can't even hit anyone anymore. One, I get the injury aspect because I was injured many times. We talked about that offline, and I understand that part. However, you've neutered so many of the sports now, whether it's hockey and fighting or football and hurting the quarterback, because there's so much fiat being bet on these games, or these guys are being paid, that it then incentivizes you to protect these guys. And now you're losing the integrity of the game because of the fiat. I mean, it's the most ass backwards thing you've ever seen in your life. And for the life of me, I just can't stand it. I cannot stand it.
I completely agree. But that being said, I don't know the stat, but that's why MMA is so popular now, because
that's a great point. It's real. Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
I mean, Conor McGregor's real.
Right. Yeah. There's not many sports that are real. Unlike
Sean Strickland's real. I mean,
right.
So,
great.
so anyway, so I just think everything's gotten out of control, and I think it all stems from 1913. I mean, think about 1913 on. Think about the wars. And all, we go to school. We can talk about homeschooling and all this stuff. My kids are older now. I would 100% homeschool my kids, 100%. I don't want to put pressure on you, Brandon, because I know you have young ones. But where was I going with that?
Well, it's stemming from future. Yeah.
But from 1913 on, World War I, World War II, every war from up there, going forward, they're not what the narrative says. They didn't start because of what you learn in school. It's all about money in producing fake money and trying to transfer money from the people up to the wealthy. That's it.
Yeah.
And they'll kill people to get that. And you can see it now. I mean, think about the bill they just passed for funding. I don't want to, get you thrown off YouTube, but
I don't even know anymore.
The funding for all those other little skirmishes going on throughout the world.
Yep.
It's a bunch of BS. It's just a way for them to transfer money through the military-industrial complex and other complexes that they have back to their people. It's not about the people in Ukraine. It's not about. I mean, and they will kill people, and they are killing people.
It's funny. Like I mean, you nailed it. Like the thing is, unless you know there's a problem, you're not going to be open to Bitcoin. You're not going to be open to, and it's not even Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a 4-letter word for most people now. I get that. So it's like, it's the properties that Bitcoin has, right? Call it whatever you want. Call Bitcoin another name if that makes you sleep at night better. But it's like, it's the properties that it has are why people are attracted to it. My question though is, why do people, like who at this point is looking around and they're walking through the streets of San Francisco or they're walking in downtown Detroit or Boston or wherever. I'm like, you know what? All these homeless people or, the tent cities or, just chaos everywhere and protests all over, they're getting erupting on campuses everywhere. You know what? Life's going the right direction, guys. This is amazing. This is progress. I mean, who is saying that? How does the average person not look around and be like, I think something's broken here?
We want to thank our sponsor. This show is presented by Bitcoin Trading Cards, an orange pill in a pack, making talking about things that normally make you want to cry fun and easy. The scarcest and most educational cards to ever exist. Available now.
I have a great network of friends that are highly successful in the fiat world. And, I say to like my real estate friends, you own $100 million worth of real estate. I go, what was the average interest rate you've had to pay over the last 30, 40 years? And my guess is it's been declining. So you've been lucky enough to be born at the right time, to go into the right field, where the manipulation of the bond market and the interest rates have been declining for 40 years. That's why they call it a 40-year bull market in bonds. So you're borrowing money at 1 or 2%. You're buying hard assets, which are real estate, which is going up 20, 30% a year because of inflation. I go, and it's easy. I go, you're not that smart. I go, you had great timing. You're smart enough to realize to take advantage of it. But you had the help of the central banks and the manipulation of interest rates. I said, guys, the heyday's over now. Now you got to really figure out how you're going to make money. And I suggest not putting all your money in fiat hard assets. I suggest Bitcoin. So that's how I end up with my friends, and then they don't talk to me for a couple of weeks.
It's lonely at the top, Jeff.
Well, it's lonely. I don't know if I'm at the top, but it's only where I am.
Well, hey, I think if we're holding Bitcoin, I think it is the top, at least somewhere, someplace. It's the top of the money stack. Let's just say that. So the top of the money stack, and it's lonely for the time being. It's wild to see that, like for me, like again, like I mentioned earlier, doing real estate and doing this, being in that world, it just felt so like something in my gut, my intuition. It felt so weird. And
did you really?
You're buying houses or raising money.
You had a feeling in your gut.
Well, just like, yeah, oh yeah, like I knew, like I just could tell, like the business cycles didn't make sense, like just intuition wise of like, we can't print what we did in 2008. We can't do these things and then have things just be okay after that. And then like, we're just going to keep going up forever. And these things are going to keep happening. And it was just like waiting for the shoe to drop. And it just felt very weird. And prices didn't make sense. Housing, like there's a little market here in Michigan where it's like one of the best little markets you could buy a rental house in Metro Detroit. And it was $80,000 after the crash in 2012 at the bottom. It was like 60 to 70,000 was the median price home. Those homes now, the median price is like 230. I mean, it's absurd, right? It's the currency printing, but the goalposts are constantly moving because the rates are moving. And then the city council they're trying to do more stuff to recoup more costs. So they're increasing your property taxes and they're doing dumber and dumber things to the landlords. And then it's this whole cycle. So like, eventually I was just like, I got to get out. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And real estate's the top of that fiat stack, I think, in my opinion, because of the benefits it gives you, appreciation, right? All these things. So that's why I was in it. Right. But it was like, at some point, like I can't trust being in business until nature is healed, until the business cycle is healed, until we use a real monetary foundation. Cause I don't know what's going on. I don't know if my business will be burned down by a protest, or I don't know if it'll be like, I have no idea. My houses will be burned. I don't know what city council is going to be doing. So that's where, to me, it was like the intuition and my gut feel of just like, I got to get out and just put all my chips into something. I thought it was gold and silver for a long time. I thought it was, something else until 6-7 years ago, where it was like, oh, whoa, now I see with Bitcoin, it helped you realize it was the life raft away from the Titanic. Now you can see the Titanic really is sinking, even though you thought it might have been. It felt like it might have been on the Titanic. Now oh my goodness, like it really is sinking, guys. Get off the boat. And they're yelling at you like, oh, what are you doing, that little life raft? So anyway, that's my little rant. But it was just like the same feelings I was having. We're so
lucky that Bitcoin exists, because up until throughout history, there's never been a savior or an alternative. I mean, you went from one Titanic to Titanic 2. So we are off the Titanic.
Yes.
We are on a safe ship. But until then, there's nowhere to go,
Yes.
because our next step is the CBDC and a social credit score, and a carbon bullshit and all that stuff. So Bitcoin, I think,
Yep.
is making people really uncover the truths about every aspect of the world, from energy to real estate to the medical community. Every single institution and area is gonna be shown to be wearing, the emperor has no clothes. They're all going to be revealed to be naked.
Yeah.
The tide is going to go out, and we're going to see who's swimming naked. And Bitcoin forces you to do it because it's truth. And once you start measuring, so that's also what's made my relationships in my personal world a little tougher too, because once you find truth, like real truth, Bitcoin, you then start sort of evaluating things from like a truth perspective and foundation. And then most things around you, you realize they're all bullshit and fake, including half your friends. So my circle of friends have gotten a lot smaller. I'm not saying they're all Bitcoiners, but they're all very truthful people. But so Bitcoin just shines a light on all the nonsense out there. And it's so liberating and free. So I have a progressive disease. I've been diagnosed when I've been 20, had it for 40 years. And the reason why I'm going into this is because that's a bad description of a life. I mean, that's not great. I don't wish it on anybody. And so you got to mentally stay tough. You got to fight it every day. And you got to look on the bright side of everything. So, I'm grateful. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because my gratitude and gratefulness for everything, just for this conversation, just for me being able to drive my kids to school today. Honestly, for me being able to drive my kids to school. Just that. And so that's what a progressive disease will give you. Besides, it takes away a lot, but it also gives you a gift of a different perspective. I'm not even sure I was going into that. So Bitcoin has assisted me in my battle to stay positive and to stay contributing and to be thriving. Bitcoin has given me that strength and ability, because now I have found truth. I have found a way for my children to hopefully grow up in a different world than if we didn't have Bitcoin. They would grow up in a CBDC enslavement world. So I'm not sure, I think Bitcoin will do all of that stuff, but even if it doesn't, I'm still going to go down fighting. But Bitcoin has given me the hope to keep going. So it really has saved my life. Otherwise, I would just be depressed. If I thought my kids were going to be in enslavement, I would just go in the fiat world, try to get as many fiat dollars as possible, just so they'll have the easiest life as possible. And there's no meaning to that. It's all bullshit. I mean, it's all bullshit. So I suggest researching, finding out about Bitcoin. I tell my friends, I go, it's not about the money going up. Of course, it's great. And if it didn't, it would never even work. But it's about the impact on yourself personally. I go, you're depressed. The world's going crazy. Learn about Bitcoin. It will save you. So I don't want to sound religious-like or cult-like, but it's actually true.
It's a great distinction, and it's the human side of things, right? There's that for what we have here on Earth. We use this monetary system, and it's the way we communicate with each other across the world, and it's the biggest system we have to communicate. So you have to have an honest system, and otherwise we have all these malincentives that we've illuminated. In saying all that, one of my questions I think of is, again, why do you fight? You kind of just mentioned it, obviously, which is, you're fighting for your kids. Again, it boggles my mind that the average person, well, I guess there's a lot of people not having kids, so that's maybe why they don't care about what's happening in the world.
Well, that's part of the fiat problem.
That's a whole different story. Yeah. So why do you fight? You have all these things going on. You could easily pack it in and be like, F it, you go do it, Brandon. You people, you go do it because I got stuff I'm dealing with. So again, it says a lot about the person you are and the character you have for the dealing with the challenges you do that the average person doesn't have to deal with, and you're still out here fighting. And just says a lot. So just respect to you for that, for sure. But in saying that, again, mass adoption, you're taking it to another level. You're not just out here like, oh, I'm on a pod, or I'm, writing doing a little thing here and there. You guys got events going on. You guys are bringing in speakers. Where did this emanate from? I know it was the guys, you guys sitting around kind of talking about this, but I'd love for you to shed light on this and just how you started taking this to the next level. Like, hey, we're going to make more impact.
Thanks. About a year and a half ago, well, maybe 2 years ago, I was tweeting some stuff out, and someone DM'd me and said, boy, I really like your tweets. So we started talking, DMing. And she's lived in the next town over. I'm like, oh, I can't believe you live, it's like, so I got into my whole Bitcoin thing, and it's like, well, you got to talk to my husband. I'm like, well, who's your husband? It ends up, he's an ex-BlackRock guy, ex-BlackRock fund manager who's now a Bitcoiner. And so she connected me with him. He lives in the next town over. So we started going back and forth. He came over, we had lunch, and obviously we were like, in love that day. It was like, all right, we're tight because, we just saw the world, extremely on the same, from the same perspective. So from there, and he's he's an ex-BlackRock guy. So he's a very experienced guy. And I come from the world, from my old businesses, we were in vintage clothing and we always went to festivals and so I'm like, listen, I really want to throw like a big festival or something. He's like, slow down. So he ended up convincing me to do a small gathering, maybe 25 people of high net worth individuals. We did it at our local golf club in our area. And we invited, he was very connected. So he luckily was able to get Greg Foss, Larry Lepard to this little meetup at a country club. So we filmed it and we put it on YouTube. And I didn't even know who Greg Foss was or Larry Lepard was back then. We put it on YouTube, and I get a DM from someone like, hey, I run the Boston meetup group. Who are you? How could you get like those guys to speak? So I said, well, let's meet for coffee. So we met for coffee. And, again, another marriage was made instantly. And and he was an experienced real estate. He had a real estate company that he sold in the New England area. So he was like a gray-haired veteran like myself, even though I don't have gray hair. And we said, well, let's team up together because we're both doing the same thing, and let's do it. So from then, we decided to create this group. One day we're sitting around with 4 or 5 people. We came up with the name Mass Adoption. We went down the line to see what everyone's skill set was. We had one large language model engineer. We had a videographer. We had a writer. We had an energy guy. I'm like, wait a minute, guys, we have an amazing team right here. So we had great people from the very beginning. I mean, Bitcoin attracts these type of people. It's just amazing. So we're sitting around the table. I had no idea. I just met these people. They're telling me what they do in the real world. And I'm like, guys, we have a whole team. So from there, I said to my new partner, co-founder of Mass Adoption, I said, let's do this. I mean, let's treat this like we've grown businesses in the Fiat world. Let's build this. So that's kind of how we started. We were lucky enough to then do a speaker series. We did a quarterly speaker series at our meetups, which was amazing. Our first one, we had Jason Lowry, which was way before he did his presented his thesis at MIT on software. It was early days when he was out there mixing it up with people. So it was great to have him. So that kind of set us off. From there, we had BJ Dichter speak. We had Luke Broyles speak. Larry Lepard spoken. David Foley from the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund has spoken. Jason Mayer, who wrote Progressive's Case of Bitcoin, have spoken, and many others. So we've gotten a great speaker series going. That gave us more credibility. I turned to my partner and said, let's throw a festival. Let's not do a conference. I don't want you to sit there in a chair for 9 hours and just listen to people. You can listen to a podcast if you want, So let's get a festival where people are actually using the value for value economy, the peer-to-peer exchange of Bitcoin. Let's make it fun. Let's make people understand that they can go through their normal, they can buy a t-shirt, they can buy some coffee, they can play a contest. Let's have them use Bitcoin. So last year, our ticket price was only $60. we gave you $10 back at the door in Bitcoin. You had to download a wallet, or if you had a wallet, and we'd give you $10 back, and you had to use it at the festival. So that was our first idea to truly, kind of practice what we preach and get people to use Bitcoin in the circular economy. We had no idea what we were doing, none, and we luckily were successful. We had great support from guys like Foss and Larry and that whole gamut of people. We had Anders was our MC. He's emceeing our event this year. Anders is emceeing on the main stage of BTC Prague this year. It's 10,000 people. So we have some great talent. Michelle Weekly was there. She was amazing. Haley Lennon was there. She was amazing. We just had a great crew. Surfer Jim was there. So we had a great crew, great time. Not that hundreds of people came, but hundreds of people came, but not as much as we anticipated. But it was our first one. It was in a parking lot. We made it look sexy, but it was in a parking lot. So it was amazing. And another thing I forgot, we partnered with Texas Slim, the Beef Initiative, and we had a cattleman's feast. And we're doing that again this year. But we get a cow from Western Mass, not a live cow, well, a cow that was born and bred and raised in Massachusetts, grass-fed, no antibiotics, no vaccine, no GMO, all that stuff. And we get it fresh. Texas butchers it up, or his guy Johnny does, and we cook it right at the festival. And it's amazing for all you carnivores out there. So that's what we did last year, and we're stupid enough to do it again this year, which is coming up in a couple of weeks.
Oh man!
So that's a true story.
That's gonna be amazing. Yeah, I know. I'm bummed. I'm bummed I can't go this year. It sounds like it's gonna be a blast. It looked amazing last year, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you guys threw it all together. Conferences, festivals, get-togethers, huge. Well, we'll say huge get-togethers are not easy to pull off, and you guys somehow make it look easy. So kudos to you. You got a good team.
So
there, Jeff.
That's the thing. Our team now our team is probably doubled from last year. We have an amazing team. They're amazing Bitcoiners. It's just amazing. And clearly, when people say I couldn't do it without you, I'm not just saying that. I couldn't do 99% of what we're doing without my whole team. So just because I'm the older guy that has experience building businesses, those guys are doing all the work. So I really appreciate them.
That's so cool. So the other thing that I wanted to touch on here was the premiere that you had mentioned of what you guys are doing with the release of the documentary, The Birth of a Bitcoin Community. So I would love for you to explain that and talk about what's going on there.
Thanks. Well, again, kind of crazy, but a year and a half ago, I said we have a videographer on our team. It so happens to be the girlfriend of our technical guy. So it's just ridiculous. But I said to her, so she was videoing all of the meetups, the Jason Lowry meetups, Luke Broyles meetups, all of our meetups. We were just chronicling them. We were going to put it on YouTube, nothing crazy. I said to her, well, why don't we put in the back of our mind, let's do a documentary once we do this festival. And let's maybe tell the story about how mass adoption grew. That was like a year and a half ago. I really didn't give her much direction. I just told her that, and she's amazing. And we created a documentary that basically takes you through the very beginning days all the way up to culminating in our first Freedom Festival. And one of the main impetus or catalyst or reason that I wanted to do this is because I wanted to have something that we could demonstrate and show other people throughout the world that you can start a meetup too. I meet a lot of people, oh, I want to start a meetup, but I just, a lot of people are hesitant. Most people are hesitant doing it. So we wanted to show people that it's really about proof of work. You can do it. There's no rules. You can do whatever you want. Start a meetup in your area. Just get a meetup account. Start a meetup. You might start with 2 or 3 people at a bar, but that's how we started. And a year later, we had a festival. And 2 years later, we're holding our second festival. We have an amazing speaker series. We did a documentary. And that's all because one day, Greg and I, my partner and I, decided to let's make something of this. And we grew it from 3 or 4 people all the way to where we are today. And there's no magic wand. You just got to put one foot in front of the other and just do it. So I just want to let people know that we're nothing special. You can create a Bitcoin meetup or a Bitcoin community. You'll be amazed at how it grows. It catches fire and it turns into an inferno once you really get this going. So just get out there and do it. That's my recommendation.
That's so cool. And I don't know if we've mentioned now, but the Freedom Festival is coming up. It is in 2 weeks from now, basically, right? So not this weekend coming up, but the next weekend, May 4th.
Right. So we're doing it at an amazing venue. So we did it in Connecticut this year because we want to grow throughout the country. So we started in Massachusetts. We wanted to do it in sort of a centrally located New England state. So people from Rhode Island, New York, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont can all reach this. So we're doing it at a great place called Sports World. It's like an AAU sports complex. So it's amazing. There's 7 outdoor soccer fields. There's 3 indoor soccer fields in a dome stadium. It's just an amazing venue. So that's where we're holding it. But that's on Saturday, May 4th. We have our typical Bitcoin speakers. We have an amazing workshop schedule, everything from Bitcoin 101 to multi-sig, to nodes, to lightning channels, to Bitcoin inheritance, just all the stuff you would need, would want to educate. It's a lot of education for one day, but you would pick and choose. We have contests and demonstrations. We have parkour demonstrations and teachers and we're going to have a parkour course if people want to learn parkour. We have a Wim Hof certified breathing instructor doing cold plunging and doing breathing classrooms. We have Schnitzel, Mike Schmidt. He's been on some podcasts. He's towing his hot tub up to the festival, which is heated by ASICS miners. We have the Cattleman's Feast again with Texas Slim. We just have an amazing venue and amazing activities. I also will say the night before Friday night, it's only 10 minutes away from the venue. We're taking a card out of Andrew's rooftop pleb parties. And Andrews, by the way, is the MC of our event. So we're very excited to have him back. But we're doing a pleb party the night before. It's 10 minutes away from the venue. It's at the MGM Grand Springfield Hotel in Massachusetts on the rooftop of the MGM Grand Hotel. All the Bitcoiners are going to be there and a lot of plebs will be there. We tried to keep all the food is included. We tried to keep the ticket prices low. And so we're going to have an amazing party Friday night, and we're going to just roll over into an amazing festival on Saturday. And just a couple of quick things about the festival, why we're a little bit different. One, it's a festival, it's not a conference. 2, we've introduced, for the first time, I think we've introduced a $25 non-coiner or pre-coiner ticket because we were thinking, if you're not a Bitcoiner, you're not going to, our regular general admission is $98. But I'm like, you're not going to spend $100 to come to a Bitcoin conference because you think Bitcoin's a 4-letter word. Like, there's no way. Even if you're curious, you're not spending $100. So we have a $25 non-coiner ticket. You can also get a 20% off coupon. They're out there on the internet. So for $20, you can get into the festival. The non-coiner ticket doesn't give you full access to all the workshops and demonstrations, but it gives you access to the main stage. So we're hoping we will attract non-coiners or pre-coiners or shit-coiners for $20. That's the first thing we're doing. The second thing we're doing is we've teamed up with Bitcoin veterans, with Alex Stanzik's group. And we just DM'd today. We're going to, any veteran out there can get a non-coiner ticket for $25 and have full access to the venue. So any veteran can get in for $25. So we're just trying to let people, as many people as possible, come to this because we have such great talent and such great expertise and knowledge. We want to get as many people there as possible. The third thing we're doing, we're making it's family friendly. It's in a gym basically, or in a dome stadium. So there's so many activities. Anyone 16 and under gets in for free. So there's no excuse. If you're a veteran, if you're a non-coiner, if your kids can't get a babysitter, bring them. They get in for free. And we're trying to be extremely inclusive. And we've also kept our general admission price under $100 to try to make it easy for the plebs to buy the ticket. I know us Bitcoiners don't like partying with money, but sometimes you have to.
Sometimes you have to. Circular economy.
Yes.
For Bitcoiners, other Bitcoiners, that's a good thing. So, is there anything you wanted to share about? And we touched on this a little bit, obviously. Is there anything you want to share about your, multiple sclerosis? Would you, because I think you do some work. You have a couple of handles on Twitter I know that you use. Would you like to kind of share and touch on that at all, and just any excuse me, words of advice, courage for people to continue to fight on? We talked a lot about fighting for a greater mission, greater cause, for your family, for posterity. When you could just easily recede into the background. Is there any, words that you would like to share on that front?
Yeah. When you get diagnosed with something, whether it's, terminal or slowly progressive disease, if you're intelligent enough, you start understanding how meaningful ingratitude plays a huge role in affecting your personality and your psyche. So I tell my children, I go, whatever you take for granted, name me something you take for granted, going out and getting an ice cream. Don't take that for granted. Be grateful that you can go out and get an ice cream. So it's really a mind war. Like, you've got to train your mind to not be a victim, to not blame it on other people. You're completely responsible for yourself. Now, I have a choice. No medicine and no doctor is going to make me be able to walk. Once I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I ran the Boston Marathon 4 times and the New York Marathon once while being diagnosed with MS. And
Jeez.
People thought that was crazy. But I was being stimulated by something bigger than just running a marathon. I was running those marathons. I was finishing those marathons, and I finished them all under 4 hours. My best time was like 3:30 something. I can't remember. So it's legitimate running. And I just told myself, just honestly, towards the end when they would get tough, I told myself, I remember saying, just put one foot in front of the other, and that's all I concentrated on, and that's all I did. Wow. So you have a choice in life, and I'm making it kind of sound easy, but it's not easy. I just have to thank my family, my parents, and my upbringing, and my early successes in life, that I could kind of view the glass, 3/4 full, not even half full. So I don't know. I thank God for giving me that strength. So I don't assume everyone who's diagnosed with something is going to have it, because it's very difficult, and I don't have the magic answer of how to find it. But if you find Bitcoin in meaning, in family, in network, in friends, true friends in family and network, there's nothing else. I mean, this monetary shit, what type of car you drive or how big your house is, doesn't mean anything. It's all about friends, true family, and taking personal responsibility for every single thing you do. I don't know if that's helpful, and I'm not even sure that was articulate, but
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's we can learn a lot from people like you. I always tell whether it's like Larry, some of the old Foss, or whether it's some of the guys. I think people like you have multiple of these reasons that people should be looking up to you. Someone that's above 50 years old, I think 50, maybe 50, 55, and then is a Bitcoiner. And like, you've lived, and you touched on this earlier, you lived your whole life, done well, whatever it is. Some people have done well, some people haven't, but especially if you've done well, and then you can still have the humility to look back and say, I think we're going the wrong way, guys. I mean, that's very powerful. And again, to hear your story and just what you've had to go through and still fighting, there's really not a lot more powerful than that out there. And I think that's why your story, stories that are similar, that hopefully we can find more of. Hopefully I can find more. Hopefully other content creators in the Bitcoin space can find more of these stories to share, because this is what's going to resonate with the most amount of people. Only a few resonate with the macro. We need all people involved, but it's just, man, what a story. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And I don't want it to be sort of understated. Bitcoin is a huge part. Once I closed my businesses, I lost my identity basically, and I didn't have anything to do. If you can't really walk and you don't have anything to do, life doesn't seem so great. So Bitcoin has given me, and I'm not clamoring onto it because it's like giving me fake meaning. I cannot be more passionate about anything but Bitcoin. So it's given me true meaning, and it's given me the power to continue to try to thrive. So I recommend people to research Bitcoin, understand it fully, not so much about the number go up. Basically, on that, it's up and to the right, depends on your time frame, and just hold on. So put that aside, and then understand what Bitcoin does. What Bitcoin does to the people in the global south. What Bitcoin does to people that are unbanked. What Bitcoin does to people that are suffering through hyperinflation. What Bitcoin does, so you can go on and on and on. That's what you should think about, because that's why I'm here fighting for what I'm doing, because it's a complete paradigm shift, and it's going to save humanity.
It's amazing. So cool. I know we're getting towards the end here. We're going close-ish to an hour, and try to keep it the average drive if we can, a little over. But what's new? Can you share anything about? We were talking about Aladdin, Bitcoin trading cards. Obviously, I work with Aladdin, the stuff we're doing there, and I know you know him. And have maybe the goodie bags. Maybe there's some stuff. Maybe you can or cannot share. I don't know if you're trying to keep someone a surprise, but got some of the cards here. Which we got a new segment in a minute. We're going to play, presented by Bitcoin Trading Cards, which is the word association. So we're going to do that in a minute. However, maybe you could share just how the Bitcoin trading cards kind of came to be with you and Aladdin, and you guys having them at mass adoption in a couple weeks. And also, again, if there is a goodie bag or what's going to be happening there, maybe some surprises you could share. Maybe there's some things you want to keep close to the vest, but anything you want to share in that realm, please.
Sure, thank you. We are the purchase of every full admission ticket. You're getting a beautiful swag bag, one of those recyclable tote bags. Nice. Luckily, we've had Unchained sponsor us for the pleb party and the festival. So it's we'll have the logo of Unchained and mass adoption on it. But within that goodie bag, one of the prizes you're going to get is a pack of Bitcoin trading cards. So we connected a couple months ago. We went back and forth, and I said, "Boy, what a great idea to put a pack of your cards in the swag bag." And we came to some agreement on how we're going to do it. And we're very happy. I'm so psyched to be able to distribute them to people. And I think it should be great for Bitcoin trading cards, but more importantly, great for our ticket purchases. So we have a pack of Bitcoin trading cards in every swag bag. We also have like an Unchained T-shirt in every swag bag. But we get some great some great goods. We have Bitcoin Rocks, some of their merchandise in the swag bag. But I think the star of the show is the Bitcoin trading cards. I'm very psyched for that. So I just thought it made sense for us to work with them.
It's so cool, and we appreciate it. We love your event. We're going to get to it at some point. I literally I think I had a baptism last year, and I have a hunting trip this year. So next year, Jeff.
You'll run out of excuses 1 year, Brandon. So you'll have to come.
I can't keep doing it forever. So I'm looking forward to it. And thank you for sharing that as well. Sometimes I know people keep close to the vest, but again, I think it is important, whether it's the Bitcoin trading cards or, the shirts or just a little swag bag, all these little things help. And I think that they go, sometimes people will toss them away or do whatever, but all these things do help because they start conversations. I think that's part of what mass adoption is, the festivals, conferences, meetups, different things. They start conversations, and everyone finds Bitcoin, like we were saying earlier, not, you have to know something's wrong in order to really understand the properties of Bitcoin and what it is. But everyone comes to Bitcoin in a different way, and everyone comes out, they're all their personalities, they're in different ways. So maybe it's seeing the cards, maybe it's coming to a festival, maybe it's, a meetup, right? Like, so you have to keep doing and iterating in different ways to orange people in different ways. So it's very cool, and appreciate you putting these events on, because again, they're not easy to do. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, so now getting toward the end here, we're going to play our game, the word association game. I'm going to go through, I don't know, a little over a dozen, maybe a dozen and a half terms that we're going to go through, a little lightning round, whatever's on your mind, a little word you can come up with, or it could be a couple words. We got some people, Luke went on a couple tangents the other day, and I had to try to rein him back in. But we've had a few people that can kind of do it in one word. I know I can't do it in one word. I definitely can't do it. But we'll rock through these and give it a whirl here.
Okay.
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Genius, but that's an easy one.
That's the most common answer I get with Bitcoin meetups.
Imperative. Necessary.
Central banking.
Is this an R-rated show or a G-rated show?
PG-13.
Fraud.
Family.
Everything.
Jason Lowry.
A man before his time.
I like that. Integrity.
Everything.
Proof of work.
Better than proof of stake. Everything. I mean, proof of work is the key to success.
Love that. Greg Voss.
I love Greg Voss. Big heart. Love him.
Women in Bitcoin.
Love them too. No, I'm joking. Women in Bitcoin. We need more. Love the ones we have, but we need more.
That is one of the more common responses we get as well. In the altcoins.
Sort of a stop on the pathway to finding nirvana, which is Bitcoin.
Oh, I like that.
Because I went through the shit. I traded shit coins too, and thought I knew what was going on, and like, what am I doing?
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
it was a stop on my pathway to where I am today.
So good. The intelligence agencies.
An oxymoron.
Here's another one for you. Politics.
A Broadway show. It's not real. It's a tool that the elite use to divide people.
I like that.
That's true.
Fiat. Yeah. Fiat sports.
I enjoy watching sports, but Fiat sports will be an improvement once we get on a Bitcoin standard.
I like that. Nutrition and health.
Extremely important, extremely hard work, but you need to put the effort in. For someone who's lost a lot of his health, I would recommend to everyone about making sure you understand what you're putting in your body and what it's doing to you. I used to put shit in my body, and I feel great. I was ripped. I was an athlete. I'm like, nothing's going to take me down, But over time, when you get older, if you're lucky enough to get older, that Fiat junk food is going to not get you where you want to be. So pay attention to it.
That's some real words of wisdom right there. A couple more for you. This is going to be a pick one. So pick one of the four here. Bruins, Patriots, Celtics, or the Sox?
I'm going to go with the Celtics, even though I'm a huge hockey fan.
Oh,
man, I think the Celtics could actually win it this year. The Bruins, they have the talent to win it. I'm just not sure they're actually going to do it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of parity in the NHL. There's a lot of good teams. So that might be the Bruins' downfall in a way. It's just there's a lot of good teams right now. And then wrapping up with two more Bitcoin trading cards.
Innovative and amazing and important. But 3 words.
And finally, yeah, we'll take it. And finally, mass adoption.
I never thought you'd ask me that. Education I think education. I mean, and bringing people together, education and gathering people together.
Love it. Thank you so much, Jeff. Where can people find you?
Well, you can go on Twitter where mass adoption. I think it's mass_BTC is our handle. My personal handle on Twitter is MS_BTC_thriving. That's my personal. We also, on the internet, massadoption.net, and we're on YouTube at Mass Adoption. So that's where they can find me. They can find me in Massachusetts.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing your stories today. It was, it's refreshing, and that's really what this is all about: sharing our human stories and increasing adoption to Bitcoin. So I thank you for being a playable character, someone who can critically think, lowering the ego, raising humility. I appreciate you, and I know we all do. I speak for everyone when I say that. So thank you, Jeff.
Brendan, thank you very much, honestly, for inviting me on and taking the time to have the conversation. And anything we can do to kind of get the word out there and improve people's lives is the mission. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for checking out this episode of the Playable Characters Show, brought to you by Bitcoin Trading Cards. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the future Bitcoin and financial experts we have on the show. Plus, we will be doing random big giveaways throughout different moments of shows of collectible cards, sats, merch, and more from guests, so you won't miss anything. This show does not constitute any investment advice, only freedom advice. Everything you see here is opinions from the host and the guests themselves, nothing further. Please don't trust, verify. For full transparency, I do lead marketing efforts at Bitcoin Trading Cards, where we are trying to spread freedom to all of humanity and orange pill the world, one collectible physical trading card at a time, by making things fun and easy to talk about that normally make you want to cry. You can reach me directly through my email, brandon@btc-cards.com, with any inquiries or playable character suggestions. See you on the next one.